Hey guys, Chaps here, and let's speculate about Operation 4. Op 4 launches on July 14th, so that's only a few weeks away. So far with each operation, we've been seeing some added modes, maps, characters, and various improvements to the game. What about Op 4 though? Well, let's start with PvE. And within PvE, I guess we'll get Escape out of the way, as I don't think there's really going to be too much to say here. I suspect that we'll get a new escape hive every 2 weeks. Maybe that will slow down to every 3 weeks eventually, but keeping with the 2 weeks seems like a nice balance to keep people coming back. We've heard that they've shifted focus away from tiles in favor of multiplayer maps, so for that reason I don't suspect that we're going to be seeing much in terms of new tiles. We certainly won't be seeing a new theme, but I do think that we may see a couple of tiles, just a little something to allow the Coalition to create some new specialty hives. I don't think that we're going to be seeing much come in terms of balance changes to Escape. I haven't really played Escape much since Operation 1, but I also haven't really seen too many complaints online, so I suspect that everything's in a pretty good spot right now. I know many are also anticipating getting some of the remaining Horde characters, like Kate for example, to be playable in Escape. On one hand, I feel like the Coalition might hold off on this in favor of focusing on whatever the class lock change is that they're looking at. If all characters are going to be playable in both Horde and Escape in the future anyways, is there really any purpose in sinking time into a change that will be irrelevant in the near future? On the other hand, and this is the way I'm leaning, I think that they'll do their best to get the rest of the characters into Escape now. The change in the future may make this irrelevant from a character perspective, but from a class and ability perspective, I would hope that their end goal would be to allow people to play either mode with whatever class they choose. If that's the case, then Kate, for example, will eventually need to have her class balanced for Escape anyways. They might as well do it now. So for Escape, it's not much of a change. Just continuing bi-weekly maps, or escape hives, whatever you want to call them, and adding some more characters. While that doesn't seem like much, it's probably enough to keep the replayability up there for those who enjoy the mode. Let's move on and hit on Horde though. It's no secret that the Horde community has been largely ignored recently. We've been told that Horde is getting some pretty substantial updates with Operation 4, so I know that many are pretty hopeful here. Let's get the topic of events out of the way. Not only have we been told that there will be more events, but I also fully expect them to add some private match options for the mode for some of these events. If Horde Frenzy isn't selectable in private matches at the beginning of Operation 4, then I would 100% consider that a failure by the Coalition. Beyond that one though, I would love to see them add a classic Horde and or some of the other event options like a Osak Horde. While I'd love to see that, I'm not really too optimistic. Horde Frenzy though, yeah, I can't imagine the reaction of the fans if they don't include that one at launch. Let's hit on balancing for a bit. I'm not exactly up to date on the meta, so it's hard for me to really speak to this. I know JD is still super powerful though, so I kinda question if they're gonna be nerfing him, or maybe trying to bring some of the other characters up. I also kinda wonder if they're gonna nerf the Tri-Shot a bit, because I know that thing is still a beast. One thing that's been semi-confirmed on the forums, I think it was, is that they're looking into power taps. This has been a big issue since launch, and was the focus of a large chunk of one of my Horde feedback videos a while back. I see two routes they could take with this. The first is opening them up and letting players choose which locations they want to defend. This would certainly make them more utilized, but it's sort of opposing the initial vision of them, which was to force people to try new locations and spread out. The other path, which I think is more likely, is to simply make them more worthwhile. One approach here is to increase the power gained from them. That would work, probably, but it's also a rather bland and uninspired approach. What do you think they should be doing with the power taps? On that same note, like I said, I'm not the best in terms of discussing balance changes, so I'll open it up to all of you who enjoy Horde. What balance changes do you think are needed? The last PvE specific thing I wanted to hit on is that class-locked character aspect. Again, we don't really know what they're planning to do, but I'm assuming it's going to be a delinking of the classes from characters in some way. Based on the discussions from various streams, it sounded like this was a pretty substantial change, so I don't really think that we're going to be seeing this at launch for Op 4. I am really hoping that we'll see it appear mid-season sometime, but the cynic in me is still kind of expecting them to hold this off for Op 5 or something. What do you think? What changes do you think they're going to be making, and when do you think we'll be seeing this? Will it be live for the launch of Op 4? With PvE out of the way, let's move on to PvP. Now, it's already been confirmed that we're not getting much in the way of new modes, so all of you hoping for Wingman, Overrun, or whatever, no, it's not going to happen. While we're hitting on that what we won't have type of thing, I'm also going to throw out private match options. They've said in the past that they've wanted to do this, and they've said that for quite some time, but in recent dev streams they've indicated this was pushed pretty low down the priority list. So yeah, I don't expect to be seeing anything on this front. We all know what their top priority is though, and that's the ranking system. Do you all expect this to be implemented at the start of the operation? I'm kinda torn here on what to expect myself. On one hand, they've given us next to no information, and they keep talking about how it's some huge task. On top of that, anytime that it's brought up, they seem to be indicating that it's still a ways out. That discussion has led me to believe that maybe it won't be there at launch, but maybe it's something that we could expect mid-season. On the other hand, this operation doesn't seem like it has much going for it in terms of content drops. It's all about fixing things. What better representation of fixing things than fixing the ranking system? If this fix launches with Operation 4, it would be a huge win for the Coalition. What do you guys think? Will we be seeing this at launch? If not, do you think it's going to show up sometime during this operation? So one thing that we know will be there at launch, or at least I think it was confirmed for at launch, is the 8-shot Nasher. It's been confirmed already to be in Operation 4. I don't know if they really stated if it's going to be at launch or not. I assume it is though. I'm also going to throw out there that I think that the aim adhesion portion of aim assist and the active boost on starting weapons will probably get removed. These are two changes that are currently in the beta playlist, and I fully anticipate these changes rolling out as standard when Op4 launches. Other than those two changes though, I don't expect to see much from a multiplayer standpoint. We know there's some stuff that they want to test out with movement speed in the developer playlist, but as far as the standard modes go, I don't really see much changing. Let's shift away from game mechanics and touch on characters a bit. With some of the recent changes, the Coalition is now able to release characters without them necessarily having PvE abilities ready to go. Perhaps they'll get abilities later down the line, but it's more likely that they'll never get abilities, and we'll just get to play as them once their major PvE change goes live. So with that limitation out of the way, what should we expect in terms of characters? In the past, we've been getting 2 heroes per operation. I think they'll stick with this, but maybe also add a multiplayer-only character. If I had to guess, we're going to be seeing Dom, Paddock, and Anya. Dom would complete the OG Delta Squad lineup and has been one of the most requested characters. If Dom is in PvE, I could see him carrying a Nasher, Lancer, and Boltok, and his ult might be something like Memento Mori, where he gets an insanely powerful Boltok for a short period of time. Obviously, it's not a one-hit kill on everything though, as that would be super OP on boss waves. Paddock was my next guess, and well, he's one of the few campaign people that we still don't have. While Dom was kind of a toss-up as to if he'd be in PvE, I fully expect Paddock would be in PvE if he's added this operation. I suspect that he would spawn with a Marxa and a Longshot, with a Talon as his sidearm. I keep thinking back to when he was playable in Judgment. I keep getting the idea that his ultimate could somehow allow him to, shoot out a beacon of sorts that would provide X-ray abilities to all teammates against enemies that are within that beacon. Like, Foz gets X-ray for the whole map, but it's only for him. It'd be cool if Paddock threw out one of his little beacon things and it gave everyone X-ray, but it only worked against enemies that were within the radius of that beacon. The last COG character that I would expect to see is Anya Stroud. We've only had 2 other operations so far, so it's hard to really call this a trend per se, but it seems like they're trying to have at least 1 female character per operation. Anya would be the obvious choice in my mind. I mean, yeah, Sam is still alive and more relevant for Gears 5, but, it's Anya. She's definitely the more highly requested character. We never really got to see much of her in a combat role, so it's hard to figure out what an ultimate ability for her would be. I think that if Anya were to show up, she'd probably follow the Carmine route and be a PvP only person for now. Let's swap over to the Swarm or Locust side. I imagine that we'll simply see 2 villains to mirror the PvE and arcade-ready COG characters. Locust Grenadier would be a great counter to Dom and would give people that additional Locust they've been looking for. Scourge would be a huge deal if we got him, but if we actually get Dom, Paddock, and Anya, I don't think the Coalition would want to throw another big hitter in there right away. I could see Scourge being more of a mid-season drop maybe, or even one of the highlights of Operation 5. If we were to get Paddock, it may also make sense to bring in Karn. Karn has been requested, but isn't really a huge deal like Scourge. Between the connection to Paddock and the fact that they don't need a big hitter here like Scourge, Karn may be a nice choice. So I mentioned that Scourge might be a mid-drop character. With seasons being as long as they are, the mid-season things really need to be big. Perhaps we'll be seeing the ranking changes or the class lock changes in there, but if we don't see any big mechanical changes, Scourge would be that big ticket item that people are looking for. I guess that's my predictions for Op4 characters. We're going to get Dom and Paddock as heroes, the Locust Grenadier and Karn as villains, and maybe Anya as a PvP only character. I also think that we're probably going to get 1 COG and 1 Swarm as a mid-season drop without classes or anything. We'll move now to maps, and I know what you're thinking. The Coalition really needs to deliver here, right? Well, I'm guessing this isn't going to be as spectacular as what people are hoping for. We've been told many times now that it takes approximately 6 months to create a map. Most of that is probably going to arting and the final touches, and it's not like they can only work on one map at a time, but from what they've told us, it will take approximately 6 months from start to finish. So knowing that, and knowing that it was earlier this year, around March I think, that they had their summit and started making the shift from tiles to maps, what does that tell us? Well, to me this would indicate that the fruits of their labor and all of these recent changes wouldn't actually be added to the game until September at the earliest. So probably the Op5 timeframe? This goes along with some of the things Dana has said on stream. He sort of hinted at the fact that while they're working on maps a lot right now, and we may see some of that, the bulk of it won't be seen until further down the road. So with all of that said, what do I expect to see? Well, we've been seeing one new map and one ported map per operation. With TC knowing how important maps are to the fans, I feel like they'll do whatever they can to increase this. So I'm guessing the number is going to be 3. 3 maps for Operation 4. I hope it's 2 brand new maps as well as 1 remake. Well, actually I prefer 3 brand new maps, I just don't see that as a likely scenario. So while my hope is for 2 brand new maps and 1 or 2 remakes, I'm kinda guessing that we'll see 1 new map as well as 2 remakes. Well, actually, I guess I would say 1 new map, 1 remake, and then 1 port is probably what I'm guessing. The port is something that's just like Foundation. It's basically the same map as Gears 4 and doesn't even have a texture or art changes. It's apparently not as simple as just a copy and paste, but it's much easier than re-arting it, and it would allow them to increase that map count. I'm guessing War Machine will be one of the maps we have coming over. I imagine that would be the one that they just port over. I mean, we already have boxes, and people seem to like War Machine, so it seems like a pretty obvious choice. Oh, and speaking of boxes, we might get a new 2v2 map. They don't seem like they'd be super hard to make by just boxing off some of the existing maps, and it's an easy way for the Coalition to inflate the map count numbers. As for free-for-all, I don't think we're really going to be seeing any new maps. It sounds like they might be looking at moving free-for-all to standard maps in the future. If they really are seriously considering this, it probably doesn't make too much sense to work on developing maps that are going to be obsolete in the near future. So yeah, that's my take. 3 new maps, with 1 or 2 of those being remakes, and then 1 new 2v2 map. What do you guys expect to see? What is the bare minimum that you think is acceptable for Operation 4? Now that we've discussed all the main additions, we need to be sure to hit on some of the earnable and purchasable stuff. Let's start with the Tour of Duty. I honestly don't think too much is going to be changing here. I suspect that the system for medals, stars, and daily challenges probably won't be changing much, if at all. The only real change I think we'll see here is the inclusion of some system that will reward you for stars earned beyond the tour's requirement. Once you reach General, I suspect that stars will either start to give you scrap or XP. Personally, I'd like it to be iron, but I don't think they'd go that route. While that's the only tour thing I see changing, there's a couple of other things that I'd like to see. I just don't find them very likely. To start with is the notion of being able to earn previous tour content. Dana had mentioned in the past they may consider making some low-tier rewards earnable in the future, but from the way he spoke, it was far from confirmed, and if anything, it probably wouldn't be until Operation 5 or maybe the 1-year mark. I won't discuss my views too much on here. You guys can check out the other video that I made about this. It's linked below, so check that out if you want to hear my thoughts. But basically, I feel everyone should be able to earn all of the content at some point. The other big change I'd like to see, but I also don't think is likely, is more of a weekly challenge type thing. I could see them having a medals page that is weekly challenges, and each week a new challenge gets added to the list. This would give people a reason to come back and play each week, and, well, yeah, earn some cool content while doing so. Now, of course, the other way to earn content is through the store. So what changes do we expect to see here? I know a lot of people are hoping to see the prices of skins become more reasonable, rather than paying $4 for a single weapon skin. But honestly, that's something that they can change on the back end. There's no need to wait for an operation to change that. If they wanted to change it, they would have done it by now. A common request has been for a full store system, sort of like what I made these old videos about. Anyways, I've seen a few posts from Liam on Reddit before he left the studio, and it seemed to indicate that they wanted to move in that direction. Maybe not doing that exactly, but doing something in that general direction. Well, if the speculation is true, and there really isn't too much content-wise coming in this operation, a store refresh would be a very welcome selling point. Do you guys think they're going to be making any major changes to the store here? If so, what do you think they'll do? Outside of going to a full store, I really have no idea what to expect. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Operation 4. Not really a ton of content coming, but hopefully some pretty necessary updates and fixes will be coming soon. I've joked and called this Operation Lifeboat. I have no idea what they're going to be calling it, but I'm really hoping that this turns out to be the lifeline that fans have been praying for since launch. As always, if you enjoyed this, drop down below and hit that like button. If you have any predictions of your own, let us know down below or hit us up on Twitter. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will catch you next time.